Hello and welcome to V8 Online's live and exclusive coverage of Race of Champions 3. We've already seen the action from Race 1 and now it's time for Race 2, and what a combo it'll be. Joining me in the commentary box to call all the action is Corey Slade. Corey, are you ready for the next one, mate?
Yeah, g'day to everyone again, and yeah, I'll tell you what, Sam, I reckon this has to be, I haven't even seen any racing here yet, but it has to be my favourite combination of any Race of Champions so far. These little cars around this track, I think it's going to be an absolute ripper.
Now, legends here at Homestead Speedway, 20 laps with a compulsory pit stop. We've just wrapped up the last race, 16 laps around Zolder. Your winner of that race was Shane van Gisbergen. He's dropped into the commentary box to say good day. Shane, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thank guys. A bit better after that one. It's a pretty good race, but yeah, see how we go on this one.
Yeah, you had your work cut out for you, mate. A great little dice with Madison down.
Yeah, I qualified third, and I mucked up a few times, but I didn't have his speed, and then I knew in the race I'd have to get onto him pretty early, so I was trying pretty hard and sort of wore the tyres out a bit and spent the rest of the race paying for it. But I got the lead and sort of could control the race and made him wear his tyres out trying to get by, so it was pretty good. But I think this race will be completely different. Everyone won't be saving. It'll be flat the whole way. Bit of a pit stop in there. We'll see what happens.
Now, with the last race, mate, have you done much with the NASCARs on a road course? And then coming into this one, have you done much in the way of legend racing?
Yeah, I had a little practice on this before. I think I ran a mid 1 minute 35, so qualifying, I reckon, with a bit of a draft, you'll see someone creep into the 34s, I reckon. But yeah, it'll be pretty good.
Now, Race of Champions is always one of those things where we're not quite sure of the track and car combo, but how do you find a way to prepare yourself in any way, like jump into cars that you're not normally familiar with, or you just sort of wait till the email comes out?
Yeah, that's where this is so good. They just send you, and this time they just sent the setup in the email, the track and car, and that way no one gets an unfair advantage, except for Chris, of course, who figures it all out. But no, it's a really good way of doing it, I reckon, and it shows who the most versatile drivers are, like Muggleton and Justin's pretty good. Madison, of course. There's a few top guys out there which are pretty quick in each type of car.
Now, before we let you go and get to practice, we'll quickly touch on you've had an interesting off-season, but for people who may have been hiding under a rock and haven't heard, you've signed a deal to be back in V8 Supercars next season, racing with Motorsport. That's obviously pretty exciting.
Yep, that's pretty good. So yeah, we'll see how we go. Sort of a bit mixed up with what everyone knows at the moment. That's kind of come out the wrong way, but that's right. It'll all come out in the end.
At the end of the day, mate, it's good to see you back in V8 Supercars, and it's brilliant to see you in Race of Champions. We'll let you go and turn some laps, and all the best for Race 2, mate.
Yep, cheers, man. We'll see how we go. Hope it's enjoyable to watch.
Cheers, mate. Well, there you go. Homestead Miami, legends, 20 laps around here. These guys, there's probably a lot of people that haven't seen much of the Homestead layout. People are probably familiar with this racetrack as the oval racetrack, but these guys got to race the infield, which will make for some interesting racing.
Yeah, I dare say, as you said, not many people have ever been to Homestead before, and those that have will probably know it from the Grand Dam, I guess, layout you could call it, where they come off onto the oval and they run around the turn 3 and 4. But in these things, we're actually ducking back into the in-course, and there's a nice little chicane. I've been watching the boys come through it. There's a nice little chicane before the main straight. There's a big tyre bundle in the middle there that some of those guys are hitting and absolutely going flying through the air. So that's going to be something to watch out for in the race.
One thing's interesting with this too is pit stops. I don't know how long a pit stop is with these things, whether people decide whether there's compulsory tyres or what it is, but should make for an interesting mix-up through the grid, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's going to be good to see the pit stops, and obviously the last race was just an all-out sprint, and this time we're going to see the guys get into it, do the pit stops, come back out and get straight back into it. But there's a little trick with the pit stops in these things, and I'm not going to say it too much in case anyone's got their team managers or team friends out there listening, but there's a little bit of a trick in these things. But hopefully, if some of these guys figure out, you're really going to find a lot of time.
I don't know if our trusty director's listening, but it might be good to take this chance to maybe do one lap on board with someone to give everyone a bit of a feel as we ride with Chris Tarrant. I'll just give you some sort of idea of what these guys have got in front of them as far as circuit layout, because I know myself, I've never even turned a lap around here, so be good to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be good. And who better to watch than the old event organiser? Get his the time in the sun on the broadcast. And I got to say though, Sam, if you've never driven this track, I really recommend either this layout or the as I racing call it, the B layout. It's a fantastic roval, I guess you could call it, and it's a lot of fun in almost everything I've driven here. So after Zolder in the Impala B, of course. That's on the top of both our to-do lists.
Yeah, I don't doubt that there'll be a bit of a session possibly up a little bit later, with especially us boys here at V8 Online. We've been a bit jealous of the guys running these car and track combos. I think we're going to have a bit of a crack of it after.
Yeah, it definitely looked like fun. But completely different in these. So you had these big, heavy, massively powered cars that have really average on the brakes and average on the grip and turning capabilities, and then you got these little buzz box things that are light and just scream around the track, and this is going to be a fantastic race.
You're not wrong with buzz boxes. We went from driving the Chevy Impala, 450 brake horsepower, 3,400 pounds, which is about 1,600 kilos. These things have only got 122 horsepower. They're powered by a 1250cc Yamaha engine, and they only weigh 500 kilos or 1,100 pounds. So these guys have definitely got a different set of driving style they have to get used to make these things go quick.
And another thing, I mean, you can't bang and barge these things as much as the other guys got into it with the NASCAR. So that's, in the back of their mind, they're going to be thinking about the last one where they could put a fender to someone. But in these things, you're more than likely to the back of their car and launch over it.
You're not wrong.
I think Jay's out there in green car, maybe try and play leapfrog.
Actually, while it's on practice, might be able to see if we can pull Jay into the commentary box and have a chat to him and see what his thoughts are, because I don't know if he had a chance to practice, but he's out on track now. Mr. Kennedy, how are you finding this car and track combo?
Hey guys, yeah, car I'm fairly familiar with, did a lot of racing in this in the past, but it's a little bit different to the beast it used to be. Yeah, good fun combo, nice wide track. Should be a lot of passing and a lot of drafting as well, so it should keep the field fairly bunched up.
And to make things more interesting, mate, there's a pit stop with these babies.
Yeah, pit strategy, something extra. We know you love it, Sam, man, but definitely try something a little bit different and get a bit of a jump on a few of these guys that I'll be battling with. Might even try and do it early, just in case there's a safety car comes out or something like that, which I don't want to get caught up having to pit after the safety car or during the safety car, so I'll pit as early as I can.
Now, have you managed to turn a lap in anger here in previous races?
About 10 minutes before the first race I did one lap, and that's the extent of my practice on this track.
Well, it's exactly what Race of Champions is all about, so that's why you're in the hot seat, mate. It's good to have you out there.
Yeah, it's been good fun, and don't worry, Sam, man, you can have it back for next one.
He's quick to give it up.
I just know I'd never hear the end of it if I didn't give it back to you.
Now, fastest in this practice session, Josh Muggleton's gone 1:35.5 over Richard Hampstead and Anton Di Pasquale. So, Mr. Kennedy, you find yourself back in 21st, mate. Still early, though. You've still got about another 7 minutes of practice left.
Yeah, still a little bit to go. Probably Justin Ruggie is probably the man to watch in this race. Races Aussie racing cars in real life, so these cars are the closest thing that we could say to an Aussie racing car. 5-speed sequential gearbox, motorbike engine, as close as we've got to an Aussie racing car. So Justin Ruggie are definitely the one to watch and one to beat in this race.
There you go, Jay's hot tip from the cockpit. Excellent.
And expect to see me spin out somewhere between turn 5 and turn 6 would be my other tip.
We need to work on split screen so we can have a J cam throughout the race, mate. That'd be great.
I definitely couldn't call it a hero cam anyway.
Mate, we'll let you get back to it. We'll stop screaming in your ear and work on those lap times, champ.
Thanks, guys. Better practice pit entry here.
All the best, mate.
Thanks, guys.
I love listening to his voice when he's thrown in the deep end. He's like he's wrestling this car around a track that he's not quite familiar with, and he's got us barking in his ear. It's good to see the shoe on the other foot.
Yeah, and you can notice having a few moments there with the awkward pauses through his speech, but yeah, without a doubt, he's out there loving it, and I know you've loved it in the past, and it's such a fantastic event, and you know, props go out to Chris and all the boys involved in getting this thing up and running, and don't forget we've got another big night tomorrow night as well, so another 2 races, 2 more cars, 2 more tracks.
Yeah, that's the best bit. Although it might be race over after this one, we're only halfway. Still 2 more races to go, and that's what excites everyone about this thing. It's 2 nights. No one knows the car and track combo, and it never fails to produce brilliant racing. Top of the timesheet's really close actually. Shane Van Gisbergen at 1:35.340 to Muggleton's 35. Well, just as I say that, Muggo's now crossed over for a 35.252. So who'll top the timesheets over Van Gisbergen?
Yeah, those two just taking turns up there, and just looking through now, if no one appears to be working. There's a little bit of a group out there working together with the draft at the moment, but now that's going to be so crucial in qualifying to make sure you hook up with teammates or hook up with any other driver out there, you know, about the same pace as you. So because that's going to be worth a couple of tenths, maybe even a second, depending on how you're driving.
Yeah, it's exactly right. There's enough of a long, there's a couple of long straightaways here where if you can get tucked right up underneath, these little cars definitely will benefit from slipstream. Only 122 horsepower like we touched on. So, a draft can be a big player in this, so it'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds.
Just under 5 minutes to go in the warm-up before we go into another hectic qualifying session. We've got Joshua Muggleton on the screen now. Looks like he's working with his teammate Madison to get a little bit of draft.
So this is 20 laps, compulsory pit stop, and it's a standing start this time. We saw a rolling start at the last race at Zolder, so another different thing to throw into the mix as the guys practice all their pit entries and everything else.
Tell you what, after watching Muggleton do that, it's a little bit of a tricky one.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is say that someone else is in all sorts. Car 41, let's see who that was. Madison down. That's quite an interesting pit entry. It's fired hard left and rolled it. Yeah, excellent. So coming up to 3 minutes left in this practice, then the guys have got a 15-minute qualifying session. So far it's nice and close like we touched on. Josh Muggleton over Shane Van Gisbergen, Anton De Pasquale, Chris Tarrant 4th, Justin Ruggier top 5. And that's Jay Kennedy's pick. He's going for Justin Ruggier. We touched on that Justin is he's been in the Aussie Legends a couple of times throughout the years gone by. So if anyone knows how to wrestle these things, obviously a bit of a different story being sim racing, but he's a man to watch apparently.
Yeah, I got to say, I agree with that. I mean, as Jay said, it's probably the closest thing we're going to get to an Aussie racing car in here. And I mean, I've never driven one, but you'd have to think that the mindset behind driving one of these things on a road course on an Aussie racing car would be, roughly the same. Just get up on that wheel and drive it.
Yeah, and I guess that does sort of reflect back on how well that Shane Van Gisbergen and Scott McLaughlin go in the V8 series, because obviously that's their full-time gig, and then when they come over to race in the iRacing V8 Supercar series, they do just as well. So yeah, a lot of that does carry over, so it'll be interesting to see how Justin plays out. He's got his work cut out for him. He's not really that far off the pace, because he's a 35.5 to the fastest laps of 35.2, so there's only a few tenths in it.
And it's pretty close. I mean, he's down in, sorry, Sam, man.
No, go for it. I was just going to say we're on board with Justin Ruggier at the moment.
I was going to say, it's pretty close as well. I mean, you got the top 7 cars all in the 1 minute 35s. So it's nice and close to that. And we come qualifying with that draft, I think we're going to see, I'm guessing, a qualifying margin be ridiculously tight for who's going to grab that pole. But Justin goes off there, pushing a little bit too hard. Better to do it now, though, than in qualifying, I guess. Now, what this tyre bundle here on the inside, that is going to get someone in the race.
Yeah, I just noticed that. You touched on it a little bit earlier, but it's the first time I actually went back and had a look at it. But yeah, you don't want to be too aggressive through those curves and clip those tyres, because you find yourself, these things, as we've seen already with Madison Down, these things flip on their lid fairly easily. So we've got to be careful.
Yeah, now if you get a wheel-to-wheel contact in one of these things, you could very well find yourself upside down and looking up at the looking down at the road. Ruggier moved up the order, even with that off as well, so that's a really good job.
Actually, have a look at the time.
On the top, equal with Joshua Muggleton.
They're tied for the lap time. That's sensational. 1:35.252 between Ruggier and Muggleton.
But just under 20 seconds now left in the warm-up before everything starts to get serious.
And you have to bear with us through qualifying. We actually don't get to see the qualifying results on screen like we do in normal V8 Supercar sessions, because it's a split session where qualifying gets loaded up into a separate room. We don't actually get a window with qualifying results, but we'll do our absolute best to get the results to you.
Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating, but you know, we can still get the job done and let you guys know where everyone is. And like, the time's now ticked over, so just about to go into qualifying. And this is always funny, watching everyone scream out of the pit lane. Here we go. Oh, there's actually contact. We've got a car right on the pit exit as they've all started to file out.
Didn't take long, did it?
Look at them all, just like, if you look at them from blimp cam, there's all like little ants filing out there. Got more cars around actually further up the road.
Be interesting. I thought maybe some of these guys would want to find a teammate or so, like we were talking about. The draft might come in handy, but a lot of these guys look like they're just going to quickly go out and battle it on their own.
I think what you want to do is maybe go out there and get a banker, and then try and work with anybody you can, preferably someone around your pace, obviously. But just got to get that banking lap down, because the last thing you want is to be spending 15 minutes trying to get that draft perfect, and then realising that you've got no time recorded.
So on screen you can see Josh Muggleton. Got a fair bit of traffic around him, trying to find a bit of space. Fastest lap in practice of 35.252, so you'd probably imagine that maybe they'd go a little bit faster now that they're a bit more familiar with the track. So, but great pace, these guys are not mucking about, and this session is a lot closer than what we saw probably in the last one with the NASCARs.
Yeah, definitely. This thing, I reckon, is a lot easier to drive than the Impala, especially around Zolder. That is a tricky little racetrack, and just looking at Muggles, and it doesn't look like he's waiting for anybody, so maybe he's just going to go out there and try and get that banker lap down without having to worry about anyone in front of him.
We're getting a bit of a word through our director that Madison Down's not too far on track. No, looks like Madison's parked it. So we thought maybe they might have been teaming up for a bit of draft work there, but I think you're right, Corey. The smart thing to do would be just try and find a bit of real estate around you, bank a lap, and then maybe, try and do something tricky later on. So we're hearing top of the timesheet so far, Matthew Nethercote, 49.716, has gone out and posted a lap.
Muggleton now starting his lap. Looks like he's behind Renz Brookman, but not close enough to be of any help. Oh, he's actually gone into turn 2.
Oh, he's
very
lost it.
Sideways, and there you go. He's just just spent 3 minutes doing an out lap, and he's now going to have to go again. This is what I mean, though. If you go out there and focus on trying to get that draft, it can all go wrong. You're trying to work with the extra speed into the braking markers and such, but looking at Justin Ruggie, who's got a bit of a train up ahead of him.
Yeah, he's just got to be careful. Looks like that Chris Tarrant in front of him. Might be able to bonus a bit of a slipstream here if he can get a little bit closer, but fair bit of traffic he has to work around to post this time. Got another teammate, ANZ teammate with Shane Van Gisbergen tucked up behind him.
The other problem is you don't want to get too close and have to compromise your braking and acceleration points. so you don't hit the other car. Because obviously, if you hit the other car, you're going to get a what iRacing's called a contact penalty, which will discount your lap.
Oh, geez, that transition from the flat to the bank caught Ruggier out. He was sideways coming onto the straight. But he'll post a time and goes P1 with 34.984. And that's the fastest lap we've seen so far in this session. His previous was fastest in practice was 35.2, so already he's found pace.
Now, I think Shane said he'll see someone in the 34s with the draft, so he's already bang on the money there.
Car on screen now, David Hingston. He's posted a 36.8 so far. Oh, and he just looks like he's run a little bit wide. Oh, he nearly bought that one. Unfortunate. We were just finding out that he had a nice bit of clear track around him, a lot of real estate, and unfortunately he's had to fire back to the pits. So Anton De Pasquale on screen. We're hearing that Hampstead has gone fastest.
Yeah, he'll be looking for a little bit more. I mean, we commented rather on it in the NASCAR race that he was a little bit further down than we probably expected. They'll be looking to bounce back here and really show. Obviously, the defending V8 Supercar champion as well, so we're really, trying to get back up the front with the likes of Madison and Shane. Got Pasquale now starting his lap. Got a car in front of him, but shouldn't be. I'll tell you what, he was seriously on it under brakes into turn 1 and 2.
Yeah, these things, I don't know if, how many people out there have driven these cars, but they do tend to move around a little bit, get a little bit squirrely under brakes, but heaps of fun to drive, and like we touched on earlier, it's probably the closest thing we've got to what the Aussie legends are that are racing here in Australia. So much fun.
Yeah, if they're racing in that, anything can go by. This, this is probably the kind of race you don't want to be leading until probably the last lap, because you're going to be a sitting duck up front there with all the cars behind you in the draft.
That's right. If anyone's seen these Aussie legends race around Bathurst, that's probably some of the best racing you'll ever see in your life. The slipstreaming, the drafting, the position changes that they do, and I guess we'll be able to get a bit of a taste of that once we finally get Bathurst released in iRacing. So we're hearing through our comms that Madison 4th, Muggleton 3rd now on the timesheets. A lot of these guys trying to get track position and back to the pits for fresh tyres. 6.5 minutes gone in this 15-minute session. We've got Pasquale, who's on screen, about to finish his hot lap. And he'll cross the line with a 1:35.119, puts him into P4.
That's a really good job considering he did that all by himself out there with no draft from any teammates.
He managed to go 0.3 quicker than he did in practice, so good to see. And on camera now is Dylan Sharman.
Trying to see if I can see any teammates out there working together. Looks like Reece Gardner and Matthew Barron are close on the track. Other than that, everyone seems to be going for the clear track theme at the moment. Maybe still trying to get a banker and attack with the last maybe 2 or 3 minutes in the session, go for the draft.
So on screen is our current pole sitter, Richard Hampstead, fastest of the night, 49.720. So he just seems to get quicker and quicker as the laps turn on.
34.818, I think you mean there, Sam.
Sorry, his last lap round was a 49.7.
Oh,
two-wheel action.
He's hit that tyre bundle I was telling you about in the warm-up there. Lucky not to roll it over. The other big problem with that's going to be is that it's so easy to bend the steering in cars like this, and I reckon a hit like that is going to definitely do some damage.
So we're just trying to find a number of drivers that are on hot laps at the moment. Some of these guys are just trying to find a bit of real estate on their out laps. As we see Josh Muggleton, who's on his hot lap. Currently sitting P3 in qualifying at the moment. Actually going to make for some great racing this racetrack, especially when they get up the bank onto the NASCAR part of the circuit. Because the circuit is so wide, you'll probably see some of these guys probably going 3-4 wide. It's going to be brilliant.
And because they're so small, I mean, coming the corner before coming onto the oval, it comes off pretty, decently length straight, and it's a wide corner, so they might even try going 3 wide and doing the big dive bombs into the corner and get away with it too. It's one of the great things about these small little cars, and because they're so easy to sort of point around, I think it's going to be fantastic. But I would not be surprised if we don't see some 3, 4, maybe 5 wide action on the straights, maybe even 3 wide into the corners. It's a very wide racetrack as well. I mean, maybe these cars are making it look wide, but there's a lot of room around here.
Muggo's lap was fairly tidy by the looks of it. I guess it'll all come down to the times. He comes onto the straight, crosses the start-finish line, was in P3, and goes to P2, 1:34.928.
Oh, he's got traffic. Oh, traffic as he tried to start his next lap. But Richard Stamenkovic just coming out of the pit lane, maybe not paying attention to the rear vision mirror. Go to Scott McLaughlin starting his lap. Sorry, midway through his lap, rather.
Yeah, it looks like he's got himself, where is he? P13 at the moment. P14 now as the times start to tumble. These guys are starting to find a bit of pace, but probably a bit surprised that Scotty's not a little bit further up the field. We're so used to seeing him up the front in the V8 supercars, but certainly a different kettle of fish when we go to a track and car combo that no one really knew about up until an hour before the start of the race.
Yeah, and we said the same thing in the NASCARs. He was sort of a little bit lower than we all expected, but as you might remember, early on in the V8 season, he was absolutely dominating, and then due to real life things, he actually had to relocate and didn't have his sim rig for quite a while. So he's been out for a little bit, and it's always hard to come back and get the feel for it if you've been missing for a couple of months. Good to see him back though, and hopefully a contender again for the next V8's Online series, starting obviously next week.
Chris Osborne on screen, currently P14. You touched on that. We spoke to a number of the V8 drivers, when we have a bit of a break or, family commitments over Christmas and New Year's, and sometimes it's harder than others just to slip back into sim racing when you've had a bit of time away. You get into some sort of rhythm, and real life stuff gets in the way, and you have to walk away from the sim for a little while. But Scotty had a pretty good excuse, didn't he, when he finds himself with a full-time V8 supercar drive for 2013. So all the best to Scotty when.
Yeah, I think we'll let him off the hook with that one. It's always it's good to see the young talent get promoted into the main series. We've got Madison now starting his lap. I know for myself, actually, Sam, man, that if I find myself out of the seat for a couple of weeks, that it just feels a little bit foreign when you jump back in. Don't have the feel for the wheel and the pedals, and maybe take a day or two to get back into it. So, not sure how long he's had it all set up again for. Madison just getting a bit of draft there from some of the ANZ boys. I think up ahead, Clayton Brooks. Session winding down now, though, just over 2 minutes to go. Madison's current best lap, 35.193. Now he's going to get a good. He's trying to get a good draft of Clayton Brooks, but doesn't want to help out a rival team there and just gets right out of the way. Sounds like he's banging on the limiter there for quite a while off that oval.
He's coming towards the end of his lap, through this chicane that we touched on with that tyre barrier. He stays right away from that. Smart move.
Seems to be some varying lines on the oval as well. Some guys go really out wide up near the wall, and others try to take a really tight line back onto the oval. 134.832.
Yeah, P2. There you go.
What could have been if Clayton Brooks gave him that little extra toe down the back straight.
On screen, Justin Ruggier. Looks like he's at his outlap. So finds himself P4 in this session so far.
Miserable moment. Out on track, bit of clear space. 30 seconds to go in this session as well now, so some of these guys, this will be their last chance to get a lap in. Oh, Jake, he's upside down.
Now, who do we? I think we blame our director for that one because we didn't say anything about Mr. Kennedy, and our trusty director decided to put the camera on Jay and ended up on his lid.
Yeah, that one
Speaking of
was
Mr.
all
Kennedy, you can't blame us, mate. You got to blame the director for that one.
I've got a headache. I think I landed on my head. That was rather different. I've been getting a nice little bit of drift around that corner, but I didn't expect to roll it.
Mate, you got sideways and she just kept going, fired it into
Yeah.
the fence and rolled straight out into the tarmac in front of everyone else.
Yeah, that was a little bit interesting. I don't know how that happened, but yeah, it was definitely good fun. Tough qualifying session. It was really, really hard to get a good run because the draft is really, really aggressive in this car. Hard to get a pretty good run, but I'm happy with my time. So gained 4 seconds from where I started, but 31st is going to be hard work.
Mate, I think if you try and stay out of the carnage, we've seen a fair bit of spins and everything else, and you got to watch those tyre barriers coming onto the front straight. And I think you might be okay.
Yeah, stay out of trouble and pit as early as I can to avoid a possible safety car, but nice and close up the front. I can actually read through the standings if you guys want, because I've actually got them.
Oh, that's a great idea if you could do that, mate.
Yeah, no worries. Richard Hampstead will start from possible foal. Actually, Shane Van Gisbergen's just gone P1 the last lap. So Van Gisbergen from Hampstead, Muggleton, Down, Ruggier, De Pasquale, Abril, Brookman, Tarrant, Stevenson, Sharman, Kelly, McLaughlin, starting from P13. So he's had a couple of races back in the pack. Chris Osborne, George Maris, McMullen, Nethercote, Atkins. I'm struggling too. To Guadaminco.
George Maris actually just beat his best time, 35.986 now.
Yeah, it moves
Down
into
about
14th ahead of Chris Osborne.
and 4/10 there at the last ditch effort.
Yeah. Hingston in 20th and Gardner, Butler, Barron, Britton, Brooks. It's all the Bs. Osborne, Blackwood, Hallam, Koroloff, some loser, John O'Barry, Rob Leet, and Richard Stamatovic last.
There you go, mate. So your thoughts coming to this one? What are your thoughts on the car and track combo? How does it feel?
I really, really, really love this car. This car's probably one of the most underrated road cars in the whole service. So always good fun. We actually were trying a few seasons ago to actually get a race underway during the week in this car, but just ran out of time to do it. But it's definitely one of the most fun road cars in the service. It's just underutilized on the roadside. Track though, not quite as easy. It's very, very slick. I'll see a lot of action in the race for sure.
Well, we appreciate you reading out those times, mate. That's worked out just nicely for us because we say it's a unique setup where we qualify on one server and jump into a race server. So unfortunately for us spectators, we don't get to see the qualifying time. So we appreciate that.
Right, about time I was good for something here.
Well, we might take a quick break before we get into it. 20 laps around Homestead and these things are going to be a lot of fun. Don't forget, there's a pit stop for these guys to take on board. and it's a standing start. So make sure you stick around. We'll be back in a few minutes' time with all the action for Race 2, for Race of Champions 3. We'll be back in just a moment.